Good evening, Mount Vernon. Today is Monday, June 9th, 2025, and this is our city council work session. Before we get into our tally sheet, I think Councilwoman Gleason is joining us online, if she hasn't already. But before we get into our tally sheet, I see that we have Con Edison in the building, and they're coming to give a presentation. Are they going to be able to control it from the?
They sent it to us.
So that's a no?
They can, push that off.
Okay, gotcha. You're up.
Gently touch it.
Oh, it's fancy. Well, thanks for having me back, City Council. Greg Camoulis, Con Edison. We're kind of helping lead the efforts here with our Thermal Energy Network project now for a bit. Quite a couple of years now, been coming here. And as promised, we're going to continue getting updates as we go, and we're getting close to a major milestone. So I figured I would have a good chance to come here and describe where we are. And as we're really a month from today, we'll be filing our project, and I'll get into all that. So I guess I'll just say next slide, and we go next slide. So yeah, let's do that. Next slide. All right. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the project, a little refresher, quick update what's going on at the fire station as we had some activity over there throughout this project, more than expected, some design updates, a refresh a little bit about the benefits to the customers. I'll talk a little bit more detail than I did last time, the protections and the rates of these thermal networks, and then kind of show the outreach and support that we've been doing over the course of the last couple of years. And then finally, what the next steps are as we go from where we are today, stage 2 into stage 3, hopefully going forward. You click next slide. Okay, so where we are, the Public Service Commission has cut the project up into stages and have only approved them at different points of the way. So this project was originally in stage 1. We got approved to go to stage 2, which was the design and the creation of the rates and the customer protections. That's where we are today. So we're in stage 2. Stage 3 would be construction, and then stage 4 would be operating the pilot for the 5 years. So we're approved through stage 2. We are due with the Public Service Commission to file our project 1 month from today on July 9th. That will be us completing stage 2 and then hoping to advance to stage 3. Okay, you can go next slide. I was testing my vision to go this far out. I should have worn my glasses. I'm good now. All right, so Mount Vernon project. What you see here is the most up-to-date listings. The highlighted buildings are the ones that kind of made the final cut for this phase of the project, right? For this pilot we see today. And how we got from the larger community, and we used to talk about 75 buildings, how we got down to 42 existing buildings and the new building had a lot to do with the actual customers and being able to get into the building and assessing them. Every building you see here, those 42 buildings, we've been in the buildings, we've spoken to the customers, we've been in the basements, we've designed the solutions, and we have customers that have been interested in kind of participating with the program so far in what we have to offer. And that really would kind of narrow it down to this, plus the cost of the project itself. If we try to have a project come in too large, we feel like it may not be approved by the state. We want a project that comes in kind of in line with the other projects. And for this project, right now, we're looking at about $140 million with contingency to build this project, right? And that covers the cost of the building upgrades and whatnot. So we feel comfortable that we're in line with the kind of higher end of the cost of the projects, but we're not an outlier where we are today. If we would have had more buildings involved, we would fall into that outlier and probably jeopardize the chance of getting this project approved. Okay, I'm going to go next slide, and then you can just jump in with questions if you have them. Quickly on there it is, if you're wondering what the oil tank looks like. At the fire station, we were doing geotech borings, as you're aware, during those geotech borings to find out the foundation of the ground to build and design the energy center building. There was contact made with the side of that tank that you see there. The tank was eventually removed from the ground. It was tested, cleaned. As you can see in the picture bottom left, the actual integrity of the bottom of the tank, which would be a big concern for a tank of this age and vintage, was actually in great shape after it was cleaned up. But the tank was fully removed, and all of the work for the engineering has been concluded there. There still is an above ground temporary tank that's in the parking lot. That's where it's feeding the oil today. But we have started the process and for a recommendation that started out of this meeting that really pushed it forward, It was always a thought to go convert them to natural gas, so that is the plan. We're underway in that process. It is somewhat a lengthy, timely process to do a natural gas conversion, but all the design and everything's in the works. So we appreciate the input from city council, because after that meeting, we really put that into full gear and we were able to make that happen. So thank you. Next slide. Okay, so what does it look like? So since we've been talking, the design itself, although fundamentally has not changed a whole lot, there are some things that did change the design. I spoke to the first one already, and that's where we kind of downsize and optimize the project to have those 42 existing buildings plus the one new energy center building. The other part of the bore field locations themselves. So based on how many buildings you connect is how much loading you have, and then that loading is going to dictate how many bore fields you need, right? That's your thermal resource. That's the batteries that you're going to use to get the ground heat from, or to dispel the ground heat in the summertime. So it's 4 bore fields that we've landed on. All of the 4 bore fields, just like they were last time I spoke here, are on City of Mount Vernon property. We have originally it was supposed to be the Dole Center, where we did a test borehole, but unfortunately, since doing that design, there's plans for a new building to be built on that grass by the Dole Center, which is going to have a sub-basement basketball court, which will really knock out the ability to put bore fields there. So now we've transferred them across the street into the 4th Street playground, and we're working closely with New City to make sure that both of our projects can kind of go together. We just had a meeting with them again last week. So we're kind of marching forward there. The other one is the parking lot for the Dole Center that you see in the top right of the map there. You also have another small playground on 7th, north of 3rd, and then you also have the Purdy's basketball courts on South 9th. So the other part that we've done here is we've kind of created a customized solution for each of the buildings. So everything from a 1 to 4 family or smaller homes through the big buildings, we've designed all of them. So every building has its own kind of custom solution that could be retrofitted in order to connect to the system. And that's all part of what we did for design. We also kind of optimized the pipe routing a bit. We've streamlined it a bit, reduced the number of pipes. We're not going down the dead end street at 8th Street. It just didn't make sense for the project at this point. Once this project gets approved and running, then we can expand to pick up that dead end. But the extra cost to do it didn't make sense. And I think it may hurt the chance of getting the project approved. Okay, next slide. Quickly overview of the energy center building itself. So this is what we spoke about. That's the building that we're looking to propose to put on the fire station property. We really need for our system 2 floors for that building. It's a sub basement. That's where all the pumps are going to be, and a lot of the water treatment. And then the first floor is going to be the electrical room, the SCADA, which is the controls room, and the kind of like the conference room area. Part of the plan initially, and it's really pending a final decision by the city, is that the additional floor, the 2nd floor. So that 2nd floor would be in place for emergency services office space, which is something that was needed. And there's some long-term plans that had some of the property around the fire station being used to build up space for that. The way that works, as a refresher, is that for us to put a borehole in city property, kind of would be compensating the fair market value of the impact to those borehole lands. Basically, there's a value to that, right? Because we're going to put our boreholes in, and then once we put our boreholes in, it does limit the use of that land, meaning you can't build anything with sub basements because we're going to need 4 or 5 feet down. You can build up of it, on top of it, at grade. You can do whatever you want. We don't have to get to it again, but you wouldn't be able to go below grade for like a sub grade, for like a sub basement. So that value has a dollar amount, and right now it's currently out for appraisal to figure out what that amount is. And then there's an option for the city to, in lieu of getting that dollar amount, we can trade that in for the value of the incremental cost of the 2nd floor and the fair market value of that rent. And then the way that we're working with the city is there's an opportunity to make that call, what's preferred when the time comes before the project gets approved. So we're kind of working with city's lawyers and our lawyers on that. Yeah. Right. So for us to use the city of Mount Vernon's land, right, we're going to have an easement, right? And we're going to put our systems, those deep geothermal ground wells that start at 4 feet down in that land. Once they're there, as long as our system is still there and in place and being used, you wouldn't be able to build something with a sub basement that goes down 10 feet because then you're going to hit it. So there's a restriction on, by giving Con Edison that easement, you're restricting of what you could do on that piece of land. You could still do things at grade, slightly below grade. You can build a park, you can build a building above grade. You can do different things, but you couldn't go below grade. So there's a value to that, right? We're not asking that from the city for free. So we have outside third-party appraisers that are providing what that value is. So we're gonna take the value of the 4 different bore fields plus the value of the piece of land that the energy center building is gonna sit on. And that's gonna equal some amount of money. Then we're giving the option to the city to say, there's also an incremental cost to build the second floor of this building and allow the city of Mount Vernon to occupy it throughout the course of the pilot. And take those 2 costs and say, and more than likely, the cost of the easement may be greater if it's greater than the incremental cost to build the second floor. Then instead of paying the city of Mount Vernon, I'm gonna use make-believe numbers here, right? Instead of paying $10, city of Mount Vernon, we'll pay city of Mount Vernon $7, and you'll get $3 worth of the extra floor, if that extra floor and the use of that space is worth $3. Well, it's a basement first floor, second floor, yes, but the additional floor, it's really the second floor of the building, but it's right, the basement and then first floor, the extra space. Right, so
If I may, the value of that property would be an ongoing cost, correct? So when you're evaluating or,
it's a one-time easement to the property. So the value of the property takes that into account. Like, so again, I can't get into the details of how they do the property assessment, but there's like 3 big property assessment companies like that do this, and we're using one of those, and the city of Mount Vernon can review that, and we're working with your lawyers to get an agreement on the terms of this whole property.
yeah, I'm eager to see how they're gonna assess that, because I know Con Ed utilizing the property is gonna be ongoing, right? And the city utilizing the second floor will be ongoing, so both of those costs would be an ongoing thing, so I'm eager to see what they would come up with that assessment.
Yep, yeah, as soon as we get the appraisals in, it's being shared between our council and your council and your departments and Robin and Jane and company, and they'll be there.
So.
Yeah.
Councilman Fatigue, please use your mic.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Council President. Would there be a situation a scenario where we would have to pay for the second floor? So I understand if the value.
That's why it's an option, right? So yes, there's a situation where if the easement, right, if the value of the easements of the land use is less than the incremental value of the additional floor, then if the city of Mount Vernon wanted that additional floor, then they would have to make up the difference. So we can't, as a regular utility, we can't just give a municipality something. So it has to be offset by the value. So the option we're giving the city is, hey, in lieu of, cash in hand, we could add this function that would help the city otherwise not have the ability to just have office space there that, readily available you have now. So it's an option. It's indifferent to Con Edison and Con Edison's customers. Because it's not gonna cost our customers any more or less, the value would be the same, but that's the kind of option of like trying to take advantage of the fact that we're building a building in a space where we could have some potential use for it. So that's kind of how that kind of works, a little bit more detail than we kind of got into it before.
So then, just to go on record, because when you were here, and thank you for coming.
Mhm.
We had discussed having a second floor to that building.
Yep,
At no cost. Now there's the possibility that there may be a cost to the city. So getting back to the valuation, that the city's not just giving you an easement. We could potentially build on that site too. And as you put your building there, we now can't build on the same piece of land. Versus even underground, even above ground, that we can build on the piece of land that property.
right, so for you to give us that easement, again, we would be paying you for that easement, so we'll be compensating the city for that easement. Let's say there's no second floor at all, we're just gonna build a building there.
So I think in the evaluation of the easement the opportunity cost is included in that evaluation.
Right.
That's not what he said.
Yeah, of the assessment, it is,
Right.
yeah, of the assessment, that's what the dollar that the appraisers will do, the appraisers will go out and say, there's a value, a dollar value, that's based off of the value of the property, that takes away, right, so like, it's like, I'm going a little bit too far, because this is not my expertise, but if the property's worth $100,000, right, then zero use of the property would be worth $100,000 potentially, right, something that's less than zero use of the property would have some value less than $100,000. That was what the appraisers do, right? And that's what the city and Con Edison would then come to terms with and say, okay, what's that value? And then what do you want to do with it? Do you want the money for the value? Again, if the city could also not agree to give these easements. Again, this is all, and then there's no project, right? That's also an option. Everything is optional here. This is still a voluntary project for the city of Mount Vernon and the customers. So, but that's just how it's based off of the fair market value that we're getting from a third party appraiser. It's kind of where it comes from. Yeah, next slide, sure. Okay, again, just some of the benefits, and this is a repeat from the last time I was here, so I'll go quickly. We talked about the equipment that customers are gonna have, so whether it's city buildings like you see on the bottom or customer equipment, customer residential buildings. They'll have the ability to have those air handlers that you see with the air source heat pumps or the split duct or the ductless, however you want to call them. Those Fujitsus or Mitsubishi that you see normally commonly around. So you get that air filters in every room, which is nice. You also get temperature control in some rooms, and you also get the ability, a lot of customers that don't have adequate cooling capabilities in their entire homes right now, they'll have the option to cool in throughout their whole homes, which is nice. Again, there's not going to be no cost to the customers, any of the customers doing this work. So we're not asking for any money for the upgrade work, electrical upgrades, all that's covered by the project, right? The HVAC equipment, taking out the old, putting in the new. Again, we're going to oversee all the work here. And then what I will talk about now is we talked about some customer protections in theory last time. I'm going to go into a little more detail, but what those actually look like for every customer that's going to be going onto the system here. Again, fully voluntary for every customer. We want to make sure the customers are protected. If there's no questions about this, I'm going to get into the next slide. It gets a little bit more into the meat of what's new tonight. Okay. So we've been saying a statement that we're going to make sure that nobody connecting to the system will be paying more than they paid before. But that was great in theory, but how does that actually happen? How do we do that? And that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit here. So we're putting these protections in place that I get to the next slide that ensures that customers, in fact, are not paying more for their energy than they did. And we broke it in, and I'll show you later, we broke it into residential versus non-residential customers and how they're protected slightly differently. But all are, I think, are really good. A couple other details we talked about here is the ability to come off the project. So I'll do the opposite first. If the system's not working, if the Con Ed system is not delivering what we're saying we're going to deliver, we're going to have customer agreements that the customers are going to agree that, hey, you're going to give me water at this temperature and this range, and I'm going to use the heat pumps. If we're not living up to our obligation, the customer could opt out at any time. If the system's working as promised and as what the customer signed up for in their service agreements, then no earlier than 3 years, but after 3 years, a customer can just opt out anyway, right? They sign up, they're not paying anymore, the system's working as designed, and they still want to come off this project, they can still opt out, and we cover the cost to put them back on what they had before. So that's the full protection. Even everything's working fine, and they're paying less for energy, they can still opt out. At the end of the project, they could opt out. And then finally, the way we're structuring all of these buildings that we chose is that we're not putting anything in place where today, let's say the landlord's paying for heating and the tenant's not paying for heating, that now suddenly the tenants are responsible for heating. We can't control if the landlord changes the lease agreements they have with their tenants, but we're not letting the heating system be transferred over to a tenant if it wasn't there today. And that's important to us, right? Because that wouldn't be fair to the tenants, because then suddenly they'd be paying more to live there than they were before. Okay. Next slide. So what do the rates look like? So for us, it's really just like a flat thermal rate. So what you see on the right, that's just the pictures that just show what a bill looks like. We haven't developed the actual thermal bills, what it look like, but that's just the pictures just showing like when the customer gets a bill, there's a gas, right? If they have it combined, there's gas, there's electric. For the thermal fee would be a new rate, a new commodity. And for residential customers, so we're talking about 1 to 4 family homes in the area. There's about 26 of them, part of the pilot. It's a flat fee, and it's going to be probably around $20 a month. We're finalizing numbers now, but it's going to be about $20 a month. For the commercial customers, it's going to be based on their size, right? You could have a commercial customer like St. Paul and Clement Church, which is the size of a single family home, or you can have a commercial customer the size of the medical office building, which is a pretty decent sized commercial building. Those change. It's still a flat fee per month, but it changes per their capacity. So they can be as little as about $30. It can be as high as about $1,000, depending on the load. And where the fire station and the Dole Center would fall somewhere probably in the couple $100 a month. But again, that's all gonna be worked out as we're finalizing the details over the next few weeks there. Protections. Protections are pretty good here. So I'm gonna try to go slow, ask questions here. I'm gonna try to go slow without the details. If you're a residential customer, right, you live in one of the 1 to 3, 1 to 4 family homes. We're gonna look back at your last 3 total energy bills. Total gas, total electric, total oil, whatever it is. And we're gonna look at the lowest of your last 3 years. So if you were spending $1,000 a year in energy, you know, in last year, and then before that was 1,200, before that was 800, we're gonna take the 800. And we're gonna say, for the pilot, you're not gonna pay more than 800, no matter what. So you'll pay what you're paying every month, but it'll be capped, so you're not gonna pay more than a total of $800 for the year, whatever that is. So it's complete protection for those residents. And with that protection actually comes things that come in their favor. So if they suddenly they had one window air conditioner and now they're running the AC at 60 degrees every day, they'll be protected against that through the pilot. Beyond the pilot, then they're gonna have to pick up the actual cost of energy, but through the pilot, they're protected. If you're a commercial customer, we're not protecting your entire bill because there's much more electrical loads that are not heating and cooling. We're gonna be capping the actual energy usage of the existing system. So we're gonna say you were using this much energy for heating and cooling before. If you were on that system today, you'd be paying this much. You're not gonna pay more than that. So if as the electric and gas costs go up from year to year, you would have been paying this for your electric or gas or oil. You're not gonna pay more than what you would have been paying. We anticipate everybody's gonna pay less because they're more efficient. We're putting these on top of that, just to ensure that even if you're not seeing those, if you're seeing the savings, you get the savings, right? We don't take the savings back. But in case you're not seeing the savings for any other reason, we put the protection in place. And they're gonna be detailed, outlined in what we file 1 month from today. So it'll be all public information and every detail that will be available to city council and then really to everybody that has access to the internet. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. Finally, just a quick recap. You know, we continue to be in the community as much as possible. The only one that's kind of new there that maybe you haven't heard about, and maybe is the event that we had, the workforce event, which I think was a great event held at the local restaurant, where it was ourselves and the city and other agencies like MTA. Really great opportunity. It was a packed house that night. We had a good team from Con Ed there. The mayor was there as well, and a bunch of some other representatives from the city. Great opportunity. We met a lot of local contractors, local workforces, hopefully made some good long lasting connections there. So that was positive for us and I think for the project. And then the picture in the middle is, you know, we've been out all winter long trying to get into those buildings. You know, we got into 42 buildings, access to the boilers, to the rooms, every part of those homes. That's not always easy to get into buildings at any time, especially if you have to be that intrusive and really be in there for, you know, sometimes 1 or 2 hours to do these assessments. So the team was out there in full force. You know, that was a day that was like 20 degrees on a Saturday, and we're all out there just, you know, because that was the best time to kind of get to some people on the weekends. And next slide. We're almost done here. So where are we now? One thing that we're trying to get to show our regulators, the Public Service Commission, that we should approve this project is showing that the customers that may join want to join the project. So we've developed kind of a 2-pronged letter of interest for customers to sign. One of them is a paper copy. They can go in there for the customers that are more comfortable with doing paper copy and signing. Is the one on the right. We've also had an email that went out with a electronic form. They can click on there, put their address, put their name, and then sign saying they're interested. I think this is going to go a long way in getting the PC to approve the project, because if the customers don't want it, why would they approve it, right? And this is a way to show that. So far, we've got about maybe 30% of the customers signed up. Well, we hope to do a big round the next week or 2 of signups for the rest of the customers. We haven't done the commercial ones yet. We hope to have the city sign for their 2 buildings as well. That'd be great. Great way to show that the city is behind this project for the Dole Center and for the fire station. Again, it's a non-committal letter of interest, but happy to share it with the council outside of this in detail. And let's see, I think it'll go a long way. And finally, last slide, I think is next steps, if I remember. Timeline, we kind of spoke about this already, but just a quick refresher. We're at that star right now, so we're about to hit July. We're gonna file stage 2. That gray area is unknown. That's how long it takes the PSC to approve the project. We know there's gonna be a 60-day public comment period. I think that's a good opportunity for anybody that is supportive of the project or non-support of the project to get public comments in. They actually do get read by the regulators, and I think it does help or hurt, but it definitely gets the voices heard, so we encourage public comments. We don't expect this project to have approval anytime before the end of the year. That's just kind of the 60-day process, and the PSC, there's a lot to review. These are very technical, design-ready drawings. So we're probably thinking, hearing back from them probably early next year. And then again, we would build it for, 12 months to 18 months and then operate for 5 years. So that talks us, the 5-year pilot would then be pushing towards the end of 2032. And last slide is the next steps. We talked about the letters, talked about July 9. And really, finally, it's once we hear back from Public Service Commission, you'll see me again, hopefully, and then we'll kind of share the news of, either A, the project is approved and what the next steps are, or B, it wasn't approved, then this is what the next steps also are, right? Whether it wasn't approved and there's no path forward to continue going forward, or whether it wasn't approved, but they want us to redesign, rescope, reshape. Right now, there's no rule. PSC hasn't done this before in New York State, so they haven't approved a thermal network ever. So we're not really sure exactly what that process would look like. So there's a chance it could be something that's less than full approval while still keeps the project alive. We don't know.
If
Yeah.
I may, can you speak to, the site of the Dole Center? Cause I know that there's a project coming there as well. How that would interfere or coexist?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, for us, when we put the test borehole, we drilled it in the Dole Center grass. It'd be more costly for that borehole to be implemented as part of the project design. You have to bring it across the street. It's not worth it. So we'll probably just abandon that borehole in place, and they can just build around it. And if they're gonna build it, they can just cut it out the way. Not ideal, but things happen, and yeah, if we would have known, if it would have been developed at that stage, we would have not done the test borehole there. We would have done it we ended up in the basketball course, but I don't think it actually really negatively impacted the project at all or anything, just something happened.
And if it potentially, something happens over where 4th Street Park is, where the basketball courts are, that's not gonna affect the project, cause that's gonna be, rehabilitated as well, so that's not gonna affect.
Yeah, so we're working directly with that group who was like New City Park, right? New City Park, I think they're called. We met them again last week. They understand our timeline, we know their timeline. Their plan is they're gonna go ahead and go through start the procurement process to get their engineer on board to design their project. We're gonna provide their engineering, whoever they end up hiring, or the city ends up hiring, I'm not sure who actually owns the project, with our final drawings. So they'll know where everything is to design around it. We know conceptually where they're gonna put their systems in place, so we're going deeper than where they're gonna be and avoiding them. There's no drawings for those projects yet, but we know conceptually where it's gonna be schematically, so we're working around them. In the situation where this project did not get approved and we never build it, they can go forward as scheduled, that's not a problem. In the event that our project does get approved and we're building it, we can coordinate construction schedules around it. In a scenario where they start building already and then we get approved later, we can find a new place for that bore field. We'd have to just go somewhere else. We're not gonna do anything to impact a newly redone park or any area. So we just have to, find a new place for that bore field somewhere else. Or cut the scope of the project down to not need those boards.
Any other questions from council members?
Oh, but yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks. Good point. So I was talking about the protections. So we're basically gonna put customers on, I don't know if anybody here has you can do kind of like fixed monthly bills. So it doesn't fluctuate. You can say, I just want, what's my average and 240 or whatever it is, and then you just pay it every month. In the event that customers are, so we're gonna put everybody on a fixed bills. In the event that they're actually using less than what that fixed bill is, we're gonna be cutting the customers a check for that credit at the end of the year. So if you were under, you'll get a check at the end of the year. So hopefully customers are under, and the idea is that we still want to encourage customers to use less energy in general, right? And that's important for everybody. So that's a way to kind of encourage them to use less energy, and you'll see how they're doing month to month, and then know if they be getting a check at the end of the year. They won't be getting an extra bill at the end of the year because we're capping it, So the only they could get is a check. And that applies for the commercial customers as well, even.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. Sorry, forgot about that. Any questions?
Thank you. We appreciate the update.
No worries. Thank you for having me. I like the new system here. It's nice.
Thank you. All right, Director Brooks, did you have anything? Director Mack, did you have anything you would like to add?
No.
Okay, awesome. And Commissioner Sproul, do you have anything, or are you just online to see whether your items are put on the agenda?
I was asked to be present by Councilwoman Gleason
Okay.
just in case there were questions.
Gotcha. All right, well, we can go ahead and get right into the tally sheet, unless there are any comments or questions from council members. Councilwoman Caitlin Gleason isn't here. Would her co-chair be able to read her items?
Council
Thank you.
President, I am here.
Oh, just kidding. You can go ahead and read your items.
Yeah, I apologize for not being present tonight, but I'm not feeling 100%. Item number 1, Public Works, Department of Public Works, an ordinance granting a 1-year leave of absence to Mr. Alexis Montero to fill the position of Stormwater Coordinator within the Department of Public Works. That is going to be on the agenda. Item number 2, Department of Public Works, an ordinance of the City of Mount Vernon, New York, establishing the electric vehicle charging infrastructure policy to promote sustainable transportation in compliance with the statewide climate mandates and providing for enforcement and effective date. That is going to be agenda pending. Item number 3, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing a salary increase for the position of Lead Services Line Coordinator within the Board of Water Supply. That's on the agenda, but also Commissioner Sproul is here to talk further about it. With item number 4, Board of Water Supply, an ordinance authorizing the increase of salary for the Lead Service Line Administrator of the Board of Water Supply. That's on the agenda. I don't know if you want to go into questions right now, Madam President, or let me finish.
You can finish.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5, Department of Recreation, an ordinance authorizing the amendment of ordinance number 4, adopted by the City Council on April 23rd, entitled an ordinance authorizing and supporting the HIV/AIDS Awareness Walk, Breaking Stigmas One Step at a Time, to be held on Saturday, June 21st, 2025. We amended it solely in honor of Marion Archer's funeral. A lot of the people that are involved in the HIV/AIDS walk will be participating in her homegoing event. So we decided that it was in the best interest of Mount Vernon that we move it to June 28th. Item number 6, Office of the City Clerk, a resolution designating Geraldine Escamilla as a marriage clerk for the City of Mount Vernon pursuant to Section 15 of the Domestic Relations Law. That is all I have, Madam President. If there are any
Thank you.
questions regarding number
Council members,
3 and 4.
you have a question for 3 and 4, you said?
No, I was just saying if there's any questions regarding 3 and 4, Commissioner Sproul is on. I would also, if it's okay with you, Madam President, let him give a little intro into those 2 items.
Do we have any question from council members on legislation and public works? My question is, why is number 2 agenda pending?
I have to have a conversation with the commissioner, that's all. I just want to have a better understanding.
Okay, we have Director Brooks here. Would you like him to explain anything?
Oh, I didn't realize Director Brooks is there. If he could come up and speak about it, that would be great.
You wrote the referral letter, Brooks.
I'm President Shane Brooks, Director of Sustainability, City of Mount Vernon.
Councilwoman Gleason, you have a question for Director Brooks?
Yeah, I think in the interest of true transparency, can you explain what this ordinance will be about, please? So that the community can understand it?
Sure. So, this is, I would say one of the few policies that I plan to put forth is being put forth due to our surrounding municipalities having this already established. Secondly, we are currently in, so when developments come into so when major developments come into Mount Vernon, it's more of a la carte. It's a bargaining thing. We have nothing codified to say this is what you must do. So it's a bargaining thing where it seems like when it's all said and done, we're at the shorter end of the stick. So my intentions for this policy was to set a guide, set a template saying, hey, you know, if your if you can abide by what we have codified, then, you know, you need to go rethink your project. So not saying that we're going to be strict, of course we can be flexible depending on the impact of the project and the benefits of the project. So that's the major reason why I put this policy forth, because I'm, for one, Public Works is always the last at the table for some reason, I don't know. Two, like I said, we have nothing codified in place to say this is what you must abide by. It's always, well, if we do this, can we get away with that? And no, I think that needs to stop. I think it needs to be a guideline, a policy, something codified by this body to say, hey, if you plan to build in Mount Vernon, this is what you must abide by. And everything that's in that policy is not out of the ordinary. This is based on New York State policy, New York State practices.
Any additional questions for Director Brooks, Councilwoman Gleason?
Yes. Has there been interest in building these charging stations throughout Mount Vernon?
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
She said, has there been interest in building these charging stations throughout Mount Vernon?
Yes, it is. So currently, right now, I'm in the very beginning stages of putting together a proposal for this body, the mayor's office and the controller. And the comparison will be if the city was to take this project on by itself based on this operational budget, or how would it look with a public-private partnership?
Okay,
Just to
and
clarify. Go ahead. Sorry, Councilwoman Gleason.
that's okay. Has the comprehensive plan, have you had any conversation on, you know, with the comprehensive plan, where these locations would be placed?
Yes, so early on when I entered into this role, I was gung-ho about it. I have about 6 or 7 locations, city operated and owned locations assessed. But what I put forth in this policy was reviewed by planning, was reviewed by buildings, and was reviewed by Commissioner Bush and Commissioner Nikolovic, and they said it's ready to be put in. So yes, I have spoken with Commissioner Rouse. I've spoken with Marlon Molina. I spoke with Lucas, all from the planning department, and we've have many iterations of this policy, and we finalized it, and they said it's ready to go. But yes, the comprehensive plan was taken into consideration.
Thank you so much. That's all I have, Madam President.
Any additional questions for Director Brooks? Awesome. Thank you, Director Brooks. Any other questions for legislation and public works? Awesome. Human resources?
Thank you, Madam President. I think the first charging station should be at City Hall, but I digress. Thanks. I have item number 7 from Recreation Department, an ordinance authorizing the partnership between the City of Mount Vernon Department of Recreation and the New York Presbyterian Division of Community and Population Health for a Summer Youth Market Program. That's on the agenda. Item number 8 from Recreation, an ordinance authorizing the acceptance of a donation from the Westchester Soccer Club for a 40-foot high cube storage container for Memorial Field. That's on the agenda. Item number 9 from the Youth Bureau, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board for the provision of summer youth employment services. That's on the agenda. And the last one is item number 10, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to retroactively enter into an agreement with Barrington Irvington Technical Training School for aviation industry training services funded by the Westchester Putnam Workforce Development Board, which is run from May 19th, 2025 to July 18th, 2025. And that's on the agenda. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for human resource? Is that a dog? Oh, it's outside. I was ready to take off. Any questions for human resources?
Yes, Madam President.
Yes, Councilman Gleason.
Item number 10, why is this retroactive?
Because we didn't, oh, you didn't go with us up there.
No.
Yeah, well, it already took place. Well, it started. Our kids are excited. This is a wonderful event. The president was there and many staff and elected officials attended. And it's great. So it's just retroactive because it says May 19th through the 18th, through July 18th. But we've already gone to Westchester, what do you call it? I was about to say medical field, Westchester Airport, and they had the
Westchester
events.
Airport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions, any additional questions for human resources?
No.
All right, public safety and code.
Thank you, Madam President. Item number 11, public safety is on the agenda. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to renew the annual maintenance agreement renewal with Business Electronic iRecord for interview room recording equipment used by the Department of Public Safety, July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Item number 12 is on the agenda from Public Safety, and ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease renewal agreement with 1978 Third Avenue LLC and 11285 Avenue LLC for Suite 407, located at 6 Gramerton Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York. Item number 13 is on the agenda from Public Safety, and ordinance authorizing the chief of the Department of Public Safety to attend the 2025 International Association of Chiefs of Police, IACB conference in Denver, Colorado, October 18th to October 21st. And I have no add-ons, and that's all I have.
Any questions for public safety and codes?
Yes, Madam President.
Councilman Gleason?
Item number 12. So number 1, my question is, do we still not have city-owned property that could house this? And is this unit, is this for the IAB, Internal Affairs?
Maybe and yes. So this is for IAB. From the letter, it seems that they don't obviously want to house this in the police station. And I'm not sure if they checked to see if there's other city-owned properties. The actual monthly rental fee is not that much. It's a couple $1,000 every month. But this is for IAB.
Right, I just think that we did this lease last year. And I thought that they were gonna take time to kind of renovate some city-owned properties to be able to, I understood the premise of it having it outside of police headquarters, but I thought that they were gonna try and do it with a city-owned property. So I would just like to know where they are with that.
Yeah, I don't mind asking the commissioner, happy to. I suspect this would actually be a DPW issue. Because whenever I talk to PD about any capital building issues, they always punt to DPW and say, well, let them tell you what's happening with the property.
Right, but I also think it's a coordinated effort because I don't think that if DPW doesn't know that there's a need, they may not know how quickly to act on a city-owned property or what's available, right? So that's what I'm curious to make sure that we're coordinating within departments.
Sure, makes sense.
Thank you.
Councilman Potteet,
Yes.
item number 13, the comptroller sent out a memo about discretionary trips. Do you know if this is mandatory or what's the?
When I spoke to the chief, he mentioned this is the only training that he goes to every year. He doesn't do any other training. I can find out if it's mandatory. I don't
Okay,
So is it the pleasure of the council to make item 13 agenda pending?
it's completely up to you.
We can make it agenda pending. So
Okay.
let's change 13 from agenda to agenda pending. And I'll find out from the chief.
Okay, and Councilwoman Gleason, item number 2 that Director Brooks spoke about, is that on the agenda or is it still agenda pending?
Agenda?
Thank you. Finance and planning?
Thank you, Madam President. All right, number 14. This is from Department of Assessment and ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with Catalyst for enterprise camera services, which is their tax software, the tax assessment software from May 1st, 2025 through March 31st. I'm guessing 2026. That's gonna be on the agenda. And number 15 is similarly, this is the actual, I think, subscription to the software from Department of Assessment and ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute contract with Catalyst Enterprise Camera Software Services from June 1st, 2025 through May 31st, 2026. That is on the agenda. Number 16, Department of Assessment and ordinance approving the cancellation of the delinquent taxes and interest for Westchester Muslim Center located at 22 Brookfield Road, Mount Vernon, New York, 10552. That's on the agenda. Number 17, Department of Assessment and ordinance authorizing the correction of delinquent taxes, interest, and fees for Tanya Hairston from 40 North First Avenue, Mount Vernon, New York, 10552, section 16561, block 10785. That's on the agenda. And number 18, the Urban Renewal Agency, an ordinance setting a public hearing for the approval of the 5-year consolidated plan for 2025 through 2029 and the 2025 annual action plan for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And that's on the agenda. And I do have one add-on, number 19, it's from City Council, an ordinance authorizing the establishment of a custodial account for the property development project located at 55 Pondfield Parkway. And that's on the agenda.
Thank you, Councilman Box Hill. Do we have any questions for finance and planning?
Yes, I do, Madam President.
Councilwoman Gleason?
So item number 14 and 15. I'm just confused on the dates for both. Why wouldn't both be May 1st, 2025 to March 31st, 2026?
What are you confused about?
Well, they're similar in nature. Why wouldn't they be coinciding in the dates? There are 2 different dates there.
The first one is for licenses. The second one is for the actual service agreement. So I don't know if the dates have to coincide necessarily. But okay, I can ask that question.
Yeah, I'm just curious why the dates are different. Usually, licenses and agreements, maintenance agreements go hand in hand.
All right.
Yeah, I was also curious why is it a 11-month license as opposed to a 12-month license? But, okay. Corporation Council, there's a lot of contracts on the agenda. Have you had the opportunity to review them and any concerns that we should know about?
No concerns yet. I haven't finished all of them. I have about 2 left, actually.
All right. Any other questions for finance and planning?
So, we're gonna leave 14 and 15 agenda pending.
That's what you want?
That's fine.
Okay.
Madam
Alright,
President,
well, Councilwoman Gleason?
Item number 19, I want to just give a little background because that is not a project, 55 Pondfield Parkway is not a project that actually came to city council, but they had an unusual ask from the planning department where we approved some expanded services for Labella Associates because that property actually abuts Hunts Woods. So I just wanted to make sure, because I think that the public might ask, hey, where did this project come from? Why are we setting up an escrow account? We're setting up the escrow account for some environmental services that the planning department is requiring for that project.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, thoughts, council members? All right, well, this meeting is officially adjourned. See you all on Wednesday, Clerk Bonilla.
Second.
Oh, I thought you had a question. That's why I can't say. Okay, good. Thank you, Mount Vernon.
Have a good night.